On this episode, you can hear our review of the European Skydiving Symposium. We look forward to 2026. We admire Andy Ford's photography skills over in Namibia. You can hear why Craig cried in front of 500 people, and there is more banter than you can shake a changeable mode AAD at. Well, hello there. Today is Monday, the 23rd of March, 2026, and this is RSUK episode 105. Craig, how's it going, buddy? Nice to see you.
Uh,
Nice to hear you.
Good. Was your intro was worse than the Donald Trump speech because there were two falsehoods in there, at least two falsehoods. It definitely wasn't 500 people, and I definitely didn't cry.
You told me you did. Oh, right. Okay, fine.
No, that's a vicious rumor.
Um,
Who is spreading this rumor? I was if I
You
was
did.
crying,
I asked you and you
if I was crying, it was tears of joy,
overwhelm.
freedom.
Anyway,
Finally, are we going
listeners,
to tell
hello,
people what we're
welcome.
talking about?
Yeah, in a bit. Help
Eventually,
yourself.
okay.
Look at the outline. Listeners, if you would like to contribute to future shows, post on social media and tag hashtag Radio Skydive UK, or email us, or better yet, record some audio on your smartphone and send it to studio@radioskydive.uk. We love to hear from you because we've heard enough from Craig. Craig, we got to hang out a little bit recently, didn't we?
A lot, yeah.
A lot.
Weirdly, yes, more than usual. Is what I mean by a lot. Not excessive amounts, but yeah. How, why, when? Um,
We were in Seville for the European Skydiving Symposium because they went, "Oh my God, Craig and Brian, your podcast is phenomenal. You should definitely be here."
they went,
Or
no, they
maybe they
didn't.
didn't.
They went, who?
So why were you there? You were there for the IPC, ISC.
No, not initially. So I was going to go anyway because, I don't know if you know, but I was on the 400 way. I might
I
have
have
mentioned
heard
it
that.
before.
Yeah,
And,
that was 20 years ago though, and you're only as good as your last trip, which was a
exactly.
tan.
It was is 20 years ago, and a lady by the name who was on the 400 way, and the lady by the name of Gulchin Gilbert, who also did the Pink Skies documentary about the Jump of the Cause
From
record,
2009.
has been putting together a documentary for the 400 way, and she was crowdfunding the finances to get the project done, and I've been quite a big supporter of that project. Very keen for me to carry on dining out on this story for as long as possible and to keep the memory of that alive. And what better way than memorializing it on in bits on a digital format. So yeah, I gave some money to get that produced, and the Gulchin was planning to do the premiere at the ESS. So uh, I I decided that would be a good reason to go to that. I'd never been to an ESS before, so I fancied doing that. Was not very popular with my wife for doing that because it was about my fourth trip in about as many weeks away from home. Some of them were with her and the family, but mostly not. So yeah, so did that, and then so I booked that late last year. But then I went to one of the other trips I'm talking about. I went to International Skydiving Symposium Commission plenary in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia in January, and got press ganged onto a committee there, the Technical and Safety Committee, who said they had some budget to send somebody to the symposium. I said, "Well, I'm already going." So yeah, so then double hatted when I was there as a an individual going to support the 400 way documentary, and but also as from the ISC as well. So you saw the you were there at the premiere at the screening of the movie, and what was your obviously I loved it because it was all about the 408. Although I didn't actually see myself in the video at any time. I need to send Gulchin a complaint after the support I've given it, but you know,
You had your name in the
I
credits though, in a
yeah,
couple
and
of places.
I saw myself in the formation on on the big shots, but there was none of me being on the ground or anything like that. So, but I think I'd pretty much kept to myself back then. I was not, I wasn't looking for the cameras like I do now. and putting myself in front of them. So anyway, what did you think? So obviously I'm going to be biased because I've given money towards the project and I was on the record,
Are we
but
talking
I
about the
generally
symposium
thought
here, or have we gone straight to the
we've got
movie?
no, we'll come back to it because I've segued onto me as usual. So yeah,
I
let's
thought the
talk,
movie was excellent.
and then we'll come back to the whole symposium itself, which was
Right.
also excellent. I'll spoiler alert. I thought the symposium was excellent. But yeah, but the movie, the 400 way premiere, is what I was mainly there for. So curious as
So
to
what you're saying is you're done talking. Let's talk about you. What do I think of you?
no, because just
Um,
said I was barely in it. It's all about Gulchin and the effort she's gone to, and the amount of work she put in there. Uh, you know, uh, what do they call it? Upscaling, redigitizing, or digitizing. Well, no, a lot of the footage was digitizing, but enhancing it and editing it and cutting it. She's working with professionals to do that. So I think she's done an outstanding job of it. It wasn't quite complete. It was about 95% there, wasn't it? She was taking feedback from the audience before she goes out to try and
couple of
get it
tweaks in the music.
syndicated and distributed. But it was, I think it captures the effort and the excitement and the challenge of what it was. So I'm hoping it will be successful in the wider market.
I feel like you haven't talked in such a long time that you're just like opening your mouth and so many words
N-
are coming out.
Really? I thought that's what I was always like. I thought you always had to shut me up
Maybe
and
I just haven't sat and recorded with you in such a long time
sheep
that I've forgotten.
sheeper than Craig Sheldon.
Anyway,
And it's so funny, isn't it? Because when we meet up before we start recording, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, no input whatsoever. As soon as you hit that record button, I'm like, you can't shut me up. You can't stop me. I think it's
yeah, the
because
top that comes out.
it's when the beer starts kicking in, and yeah, it's
Excellent.
it's showtime. uh, You know,
So,
time to do
your
my bit.
question from several minutes ago, what did I think of the movie? I thought the movie was excellent. I thought the crowd was obviously sympathetic. It's a very biased um, audience. We're there for a reason. I thought I don't like
Can I just
really to
challenge
give
that?
subjective. Oh my God. Go on.
So just to say that the premiere was at 7 o'clock in the evening. So there'd been a full day of seminars and talks and lectures and whatever. So full on day of lots of information. And by the time 5 o'clock comes around, and then they have the draw done by Riyadh, which was most entertaining, Sharon, and yeah. Um, so I think people just wanted to go to the bar and have something to eat and just relax and socialize and see the people, their friends, which is the other reason for going there, right? It's to see people you haven't seen for a long time. I saw Billy Payne there, which was absolutely lovely because I haven't seen him for a long time. We started skydiving together almost 30 years ago, and he now lives in Portugal, so it was a short commute for him. So, to ask people, it was the same with Norman Kent's movie night as well. And that was even, I see, even longer. That was what, 3 hours or something, wasn't it? We stayed for most of that. So for people to give up their time, I think it was Brian shaking his head. You can't see it, but
No, I
it
didn't
was a.
stay for most of it. I turned up late. I left after one film.
Did you? I didn't even
Yeah.
notice. I was so enthralled by Norman's films, I didn't notice. Yeah, so to say, this goes back to your point about being a biased audience. I mean, there were a few 400 way participants there to see it. I think the majority of the audience weren't 400 way people
I'm
who,
not saying they were, but I'm saying that after a long day, it was only people who really wanted to see the video, see the movie turned up
but there were still
rather than
quite a
the
few people
casual.
there. I thought, considering. So yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, it was a decent number. I'm not,
biased
but I
by
think
choosing to
people
be
were
there.
keen to see it. Yeah.
Yes, but that's a good
So
thing. But it's easy
I don't
amongst
know how it'll do
skydivers.
on general release if it was
No,
to go to general release, but
we'll see.
either way,
It's a
so
tough market when you've got things like who did that thing? Alex Arnhold, what's his name? The free climber who just did
free
the
solo
101 tower free,
tangent.
and when you're competing against things like that on Netflix, I think it's a tough market. But yeah, so this year was the 20th anniversary of the record, so and it pretty much coincided with the 20th anniversary of setting that record. So it was very poetic, I felt, to do it then, and it was really good. And I dressed up for the occasion. Maybe that should be the back cover, Brian. What do you think? So me being the hoarder that I am, I kept hold of all the freebies that they'd given us during the 400 way, including the sweatsuit, one tracksuit that they gave us to do the mass jumping, and I wore it to the premiere, and the trainers they gave us, and a hat that I had, so I looked like a right prize pillock. But there had to be a reason that I'd held on to them for 20 years, and that was it. So yeah, in your face, my wife, who wanted me to throw them away many years ago, they they
How
served a
many
purpose.
house moves is that?
Two, I think. Two, yeah,
3 maybe? Don't know.
yeah.
Cool. No, a good movie. I would recommend it to all skydivers. What else was your highlight at the symposium?
Ooh, it's quite a lot.
Would you go again?
That's a good question because, obviously
It's gonna be
I
in
had a
Seville in
special,
2026.
yeah, 2028. It's 2026 this
Oh, yeah,
year.
my bad, sorry. Yep.
And it's every 2 years, and
Mhm.
it's sort of like an off year like competition. So the PIA symposium, which is a really big, it's more industry, the PIA symposium. So it's a different
PIA stands
audience,
for
Parachute Industry Association. So it's all the manufacturers and things. But I think that's increased more and more the past couple of years because the USPA tends to coordinate with it. So they'll have a general meeting or a board of directors meeting before or after it to coincide. So, because they've had more fun jumpers attending, and I think the dynamic is changing. Anyway,
that's a
because
very
you've got
American
one
thing, isn't it?
one global event with skydiving in one year, you don't want to really have a competing event. So they're sort of offsetting on off years. So yeah, so it's every 2 years for the ESS, and it's Seville again in 2028. But I think they said because it's organized by Polish people, most predominantly Polish, it started out in Poland. And a lot of the early ones were in Poland. I think they're going back to Poland in 2030. Is that right? In what was it,
That's the
Warsaw?
current plan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a long way away, so things may change, but that is the current plan. So yeah, I think so. It's the only the reason why I hesitate is because and this may change now because I'm no longer on the board of British Skydiving. It's just the draws on my time and the the demands, the requirements from the family. So it's a tough balance to together. Right, I would love to go, but yeah, whether it's worth it, and I don't mean that in a bad way against the symposium itself. It's just everything else that's going on. But yeah, no, I'd like to. It's going from strength to strength. I've jotted down the numbers somewhere. They had 850 odd attendees this year. I think it was 600 odd the year before. So, obviously it's growing, and every year, every time it happens, every 2 years, they learn and they grow from it, and it gets a bigger name and a bigger reputation, and more people attend. So I'm sure it will um, be even more worthy an event to go to in 2 years' time. And it
It's a
being
very
in Europe
expensive event.
for compared
So
to for you to
they
attend.
fund they fund a lot of the people to turn up who are speaking, and they charge the general people quite a lot
Yes. So
to
this is
get
the
in.
difference, right, between the expo, and because the expo is free. Um, but equally we don't pay people to go there. Although occasionally we have, I think the last couple of years paid the keynote to come, which I sort of disagreed with. But that happened. Um, but interestingly, the same amount of people attend. So I think we have about 1,000 people goes to the expo, and you could round up 850 at the symposium to say that's roughly similar numbers. But yeah, but you say it was expensive, but it was. I got a 3-day ticket, and that was an early bird price, and I think it was 130 euros, which isn't.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. Well, how much did you?
So
Because
the
you
later
registered a
tickets,
lot later, didn't you?
I thought I saw the later tickets were around about 85 euros per day,
Okay. So what's that? 240
250
for
ish. Not really,
for the 3
not
days.
really sure.
Well there's a lesson for you, Brian, you know. As always, your admin is lacking, and if you'd
Uh,
organised it a bit sooner, you could have got it cheaper. But what was expensive? The
you
hotel.
can't
So
get it cheaper than free, can you? But anyway, that's another
no,
story.
the hotel was quite expensive, but there were other options around. A lot of people stayed at Airbnbs and other things, especially if they wanted to see more of
How much
Seville.
did you pay for your room then? Like this is
I think it was about 100 euros a night, so about 300
okay, fine,
euros.
yeah. So
So
not dissimilar to the Expo hotel, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, fine.
it was a very nice hotel, wasn't it? It had a gym and a pool and a bar. Although I, the the level of service, you know, the number of people, the bar staff that were serving was about comparable, wasn't it? It was to get a drink was a nightmare. Although when you
The
did get
service was pretty
food,
slow.
the food was pretty good. But yeah, the service. Well, it was it was commensurate with the number of people they had on working, which wasn't that many. But I'm sure they did a roaring trade. And I didn't pay very much for flights. I think I paid about 60 quid each way because it was cheap flights. They'd Vueling on the way out and EasyJet on the way back. And that didn't have much to it. So, you know, from that perspective, it's sort of a no-brainer. I probably wouldn't go to PIA because it's America, and let's not talk about America, but just in terms of distance and expense, just to get there, and time zones and all that, let alone the political mess that that country is in. Oh, a little bit of politics. It's alienated a load of our American listeners, and not that there aren't
I
that
thought
many.
you weren't
Um,
talking about America.
I'm not. And in fact, I probably wouldn't get into America at the moment because my social media is up. It's what do they call it in America? A dumpster fire of opinion about what's going on over there. Anyway, do you see what I mean? To go to Europe is a lot easier than it is to go to America for sort of the same thing. Like I say, I think ESS is growing. I think PAA have not been, but I think that's a huge affair, huge event. That's European Symposium is growing and will be I say challenges that it's off year, so sort of work hand in hand. It's the expo that needs to, I think, not worry, but keep an eye on it. And in fact, so British Skydiving sent Ryan, one of our safety and training officers, was giving a presentation there, which was very good. And Lucy Mancy, his wife, who's also sort of contract staff for British Skydiving, was there to try and get some tips and hints as to anything that we could steal to use to enhance. I keep saying we. I've got to stop saying we. I'm no longer on the board. It's not we anymore. So, but yeah, help improve the expo and try and get back some of the that excitement and that interest and involvement in the expo. God, I really am talking, aren't I? Brian, you take over. Save
I
everyone
enjoyed.
from listening to me
Oh
droning
fucking
on.
hell!
What was his name? Jim Cowan. Jim Cowan's presentation. To answer your question from about 10 minutes ago, Jim Cowan's presentation was very entertaining, and not even the fact that it was entertaining. It was so informative, wasn't it? It was probably the most, and it just made me realize I've done it again. Brian, you talk, and then no, I'll just interrupt you. All these things that we are programmed to rote learn, rote teach our students, and we do it without even thinking about it. And then when somebody like Jim comes along and challenges that and makes you think about it, you think, shit, what have I been telling people all these? What have I been doing? What haven't I been considering in these situations? I mean, admittedly, they are massively. A lot of them were quite edge cases, weren't they? And you've got to be really unlucky to get into those situations. But there was some real food for thought in there. Can I just say one more thing before I let you say it? You talked about it's my catchphrase, right? One more thing. I'm going to get that on the t-shirt. One more thing. Um, so because you pay to go to ESS, um, this isn't the reason the ESS say, but they don't stream any of their videos. They don't stream any of the lectures, and the reason they do that, they say, is to enable the speakers to feel more free about what they're talking about, and that I'm not concerned that the audience will hear it, but it won't. It doesn't live on the internet forever. So if they say something, they might um, change their mind about or regret saying, or perhaps isn't for a wider audience, a public audience. Then there's no risk of that. I don't quite get that argument because we've had similar at the expo, and you know we've edited out anything that's sensitive or could cause an issue before it's been uploaded
I
to
mean,
YouTube.
there's an
So I don't.
element of FOMO for ticket
Yeah,
sales,
if
ticket
if you're
sales.
charging for an event, you want people to be there, and if people can watch it online, they're not going to go. So I understand that, and that's where the expo is different from the symposium because we don't charge for it. So whether people go or not is up to them, and because we're a membership association, it's a benefit of membership. So we don't want people to miss out just because they might not be able to make it because there was a lot of good content there. And interestingly, some of the talks that were given at ESS were evolutions of ones that have been at British Skydiving Expo before. So you'd probably get 90% if there was a speaker that had been at British Skydiving the Expo, then 90% of those talks are probably you can find them online. Bill Booth, for example, his history of skydiving one was fairly similar to the one that he did quite a few years ago now at the expo. And so the Jim Cowan one, I think he himself has put on YouTube. I need to go and find that. And I would heartily recommend anybody watch that. You will definitely learn something by watching that. And I'm going to
We shall
shut up
put that
now.
in the links. No, you won't. I thought the symposium was excellent in terms of the people who were there. There weren't very many casual skydivers. I'd like to see more casual skydivers, but there was a lot of industry people there. Um, I personally, I was able to go along and speak to every single one of my sponsors. I managed to tick off 8 or 9 people that I wanted to speak to. I hadn't talked to in a while, but I could actually, go see them, give them a hug, shake their hand, whatever it was, and do that. That was really handy from that perspective. I didn't decide to go until about 2 weeks beforehand, but I'm glad I did go. Um, I think with all these big events, it's not quite. There was a lot of um, problems. So we bitched at the expo about certain things, and that definitely showed up at in this hotel in Seville, which looked super nice from some perspectives. But then you looked at the queues for a cup of tea or coffee at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was just the queue was just ridiculous. Or the fact there was the rooms were super hot and there was no air conditioning because they only have heating on in the winter. So the air conditioning was kicking out hot air. Um, Little things like that. But no, overall, it was great. I think their ploy of giving out free tickets to all the drop zone operators is very smart so that then you can turn around to the manufacturers and say, um, look at all the people who are going to be here. And they had such a wide variety from um, aircraft manufacturers to, all the regulars from gear and stuff, but software people. And it's just a bit of everything, everything conceivable. Um, Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very comprehensive suite of events, and I liked the fact that they made a big deal out of it, and they told everyone it was a big deal before and after. And there's still fresh stuff coming out on social media platform afterwards. It's clearly a big thing for them and a project that takes 5 people. Are they full time on
Yes.
this? They must have other stuff going on. Can't believe it
Yeah.
supports them
I
financially
think
for
Marta, one of
2
the
years.
main people behind it, she works in events. That's her sort of full-time job.
Yeah,
But I can't imagine that this is a side project for them despite the amount
yeah.
of
I'm
work.
sad
But
we
no,
didn't go for a
they
run.
yes.
It's
I mean,
actually
that's a good thing,
literally
right? Because it shows how
that we
busy
didn't
we
go for a
were.
run.
Yeah, and that shows how busy we were with the event.
Well, I went to the gym, and do you know who I went to the gym with?
Jim,
No,
no,
6:30 in the morning. It
Bill
turns out there were
Booth,
2 people in the gym, me and Pete Allen.
Pete Allen. Oh,
So,
yeah, should
there
have
you go.
known.
So me and Pete hung out in the gym while you turned me down for a run. Uh,
Yeah,
and then
well,
it
I
got quite
don't.
busy about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, but yeah. So normally I go at these things. I go out for a run with Albert from the USPA, the chief executive of USPA, and he did manage to go out for a run
Ah,
But
perfect.
but but I didn't. I took some trainers with
Because you
me,
have been
but
forced out of British skydiving, you're a nobody now, and no one wants to run with you.
that's that's true. That's true.
So
Actually,
you talked about not
go on.
being on council anymore. Could you want to explain why?
They kicked me off. They've had
Bastards.
enough. Yeah, yeah. They forced
Partly
me
my
out.
vote.
Partly your vote,
With the good
because
governance from about
you were on
9
the
years ago.
board when we adopted that, were you?
Yep.
But I think it was fairly unanimous, wasn't it? Was I have to go back. Was there anybody who voted against it at the time when we did it?
Who cares? I still voted for it.
That was probably that must have been on the 5 minutes you were on the board before you quit
Oh,
in a
it
huff.
wasn't 5 minutes, it was at least 2 weeks.
So at least
Anyway,
you were effective. You did affect some change. So yeah, so back in, well, 9 years ago. So what was it, 2017? We adopted Sport England's guidelines for good governance, and one of those recommendations was you should term limit your directors on the board so that you don't just keep having the same old people with the same old ideas doing the same old thing over and over again, um, which is me. So yeah, so I 9 years later, 3 year terms, I was required to step down from the board after 20. So when we brought those rules in, I'd already been on the board for a total of 11 years. So that those 9 more years gave me 20 years in total, which is quite a nice round number. So yeah, so
is there gonna be a movie about it?
that'd be a great one, wouldn't it? Yeah. No, I mean, isn't this podcast has basically been a podcast about British skydiving, isn't it? So, and the trials and tribulations. So I think that's enough
No, it's
now.
totally independent.
Don't think there'll be a movie about it. So yeah. So
Involved, right?
eh, say again.
You're still involved.
So on my retirement, I was very fortunate and amazed and lucky enough to be bestowed with several awards, one of which was to be made a vice president of the association. So the vice presidents yeah. So we've never the vice president role isn't currently formalized within British skydiving. There's been efforts over the years to try and formalize it, and it hasn't been formalized yet. It will go through again this year. It's partly because there's always been other more important things to be dealing with. But I know that they will be looking at it again this year. So what does a vice president do? To my mind, and I lent heavily on this, is offering advice and experience and knowledge from the past. So obviously, I'm quite close friends with Martin Salisbury, who was chair when I was vice chair, and John Smythe, who was the chair prior to Martin Salisbury, who I now work with quite closely. He's the main delegate to ISC, so I see him and talk to him quite regularly because of that. And again, I'm quite good friends with John, so I did talk to them quite a lot as chair, to both as friends and as vice presidents. Um, but that is, as I said, that's not formalized, and but I do see that as a purpose of vice presidents. It's that historic connection, that history, that corporate knowledge to to try not to stop history repeating itself, but just to say, oh, that was considered before, and this is what happened as a result of that. Not to say you shouldn't do it or should do it, but this is what was thought at, at the time. Whereas there are some people who think that vice presidents should just be just honorary and just be there to be ambassadors for the sport, to turn up at nationals, hand out a few medals, and be at the awards and the AGM and a couple of events like that, just to be seen. But I do see, given the breadth and depth of experience that all the VPs have, I think they have a lot more to offer than just being you know ambassadors and faces to wheel out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the board do with that this year, but that will be for future vice presidents, because the current vice presidents were made vice presidents. I gotta stop saying vice president. It's like I say VP now, can't I? You know, will stay as they were without that definition, but anybody new coming on will be probably more defined in the future. So yeah, so from that perspective, I hope to be still involved. I'd love to, like, me being me, I can't let go. I'm still interested, still keen, still willing to offer advice and input. The board is quite different now. There's not a new people on there. I've also got to be careful that I don't try and interfere and get involved when I'm not wanted. So you know, I'm here
Has never
if
stopped
they
you so
want
far.
to, if they want to ask. It's not for me to insert myself into that conversation. We've got some very capable people on the board who will be able to manage. But yes, I would, you know, I've been doing it, been on the board for so long. Skydiving is so important to me that I hope to be still involved in some way in the future.
If you could only do one thing again, would you rather be would you rather jump or be involved with British skydiving in the board?
Oh, that is a good question.
Ah,
I know,
never voting for you again if you answer this wrong.
yeah, you know, so being, you know, coming to an end on the board did give me cause to consider and wonder had I wasted the last 20 years of my life. Because in some ways, and I don't mean this is a bad way, but in some ways I have. You know, that was a conclusion that I came to. I was, you know, I've what were my achievements over the last 20 years? It's difficult. The way my mind works, I struggle to remember the successes. All I remember, I said this in my speech at the AGM. All I can remember is the failures or the near misses. You know that would have been great, but never actually happened. But I think that's part of, you know, the last few years were especially tough being on the board, a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of hassle, and that kind of tinged and colored my perception and my memory of the board, um, which makes it difficult to answer that question. And you know, I also thought about y- you know, things like flying. You know, I started flying recently, and you know, all the other things that I not sacrificed but didn't do because I was doing British skydiving stuff, and I've always tried to balance everything. So I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not one for regrets. I'm I'm despite all the negative bad memories and the things that didn't happen that I would have liked to have happened, I still feel that I contributed, and in a positive manner. And the funny thing is there's probably quite a few people who will disagree with that, and they're welcome to their opinion. But you know, you're asking me here, and you know, and so like I say, never regret anything. So no, I think I would. I think on balance, I've been a net contributor to British skydiving. So yeah, I would do it again.
And if you could only do one more thing from now on, would it be council or jumping?
Uh, again, another good question. Um, so I like to think jumping because so I think that rule that we made 9 years ago was actually very good because if we hadn't made that rule, adopted that rule, I would I would have continued on, and I think I do think that would have been a bad thing. I don't. I think it is unhealthy to have somebody involved for that long. You do need fresh blood. You do need that change of ideas. You know, when I first went on the board, I was a young skydiver, and now I'm one of the old boys club, a blazer, wearing, signed up, fully fledged member of that. You know, I'm old school, so no, you really do need that. So it did me a favor because it forced me to 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 step back. You know, not that I had any choice, but if I had a choice, I probably would have carried on. And I think I would have just got more um, embittered, and frustrated, and yeah, resentful, and I'm doing a really good job of selling the board here. No, I mean, I had a great time on the board. One thing I don't say is how much it taught me, how much I learned, how much it shaped me as a person, as a skydiver, as an employee, as an employer, all of those things. But all good things come to an end, right? Um, so on balance, despite not wanting to quit or give up and to step back, I'm glad that's how it happened. So from that perspective, yes, jumping. Um, and I need to let go more, and people need to tell me to sod off when I stick my nose in and I give my advice. But the good news is that it's only for 3 years, so I can stand again in 3 years' time.
Please
Although
don't.
my wife, no, that's what my wife said. She will divorce me if I do that.
Ah.
Um, and I think after 3 years, it will be very easy to say uh, that's very much somebody else's problem now. To answer your question,
I think so.
what are you looking at? You're distracted. You switched
Yeah.
off.
I asked you a yes or no question, like, and then we talked for a few minutes.
And you expected a
Oh,
yes or no answer.
yeah, I did. I don't know why. Um,
How long have you known me, Brian? How long have we been doing this?
it feels like a long time. It must have been just after 2006 because I remember asking you about the 400 way. You were just like really awkward about it. I just remember thinking, what interesting. Um,
Awkward as in I was embarrassed to talk about it.
didn't really engage. Didn't really engage. Was like, who is this kid? D- don't need to talk to him.
You?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
well,
London Skydiving. So I was like, oh wow, you're the 400 way, blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever,
oh, I
dickhead.
see.
Um,
Right, okay. That wasn't
so
that's more about me than it is about you. I don't yeah. Don't
possibly,
like to don't like
possibly. I
to
mean,
talk
you
about
don't like
it.
to talk. Exactly. It's hard to get words out of you. Like getting blood out of a stone. Um, what are we talking about?
I
Oh, so you
wish
got
I'd
given a sword. You got an award on stage.
yes.
Where's this fuck? You
So
got given a sword.
a sword, yes. The
What's it for?
it's
Stabbing people.
it's the Jim Crocker sword for outstanding contribution to sports skydiving. So Jim Crocker was a previous chairman of British Skydiving for many years, um, and also the Royal Aero Club as well. So a lot of parallels there. Um, Not that I've been chair of the Aero Club, but I'm a delegate. Martin Salisbury is now the chair of the Royal Aero Club. And so, just to give you an idea, um, the some of the previous awardees of the award. I think the first one was Sparky in 2007, Tony Knight, 2009. So it's like a lot of our awards. It doesn't get awarded every year, only for very significant things. 2010, Brian Lathwaite, who sadly passed away. 2011, Helmut Cloth, the inventor of the Cyprus. 2012, John and Debbie Carter, who gave many, many, many years of um, service to British skydiving. 2016, John Hitchens, same again. 2017, Jackie Smith. That was a bit of a belated one, but Jackie was our first world champion um, back in 1978, I think, being awarded with that. Rob Colpus, 2018. Graham Spicer, 2019, did a lot of work on our IT systems of British skydiving. Dave and Angela Hickling, 2021. I was chair at that time, so I had the great honor and privilege and pleasure of presenting Dave and Ange with that award, considering Langer was, where I spent a lot of my formative years skydiving, got my tenant rating there. So that was really nice that I was able to do that. And then Pete Allen again in 2022. Pete's been a personal hero and legend and icon to me, as to many people. So it was a real honor to present him with that sword. And then in 2024 was Tony Butler, who retired after how many years was that with British skydiving? So yeah, he was given that, and then yeah, there wasn't an award in 2025, but it was given to me in 2026, which I I really was not expecting. I thought I would get a life membership, um, and maybe the VP, but to get that and the Jim Crocker sword was just blew my mind, blew me away. Really, I didn't felt like quite an imposter receiving that. It was a big shock, but I'm very very grateful for it, even if I don't feel like I deserve it. Like, I always said, I was on the board because I was doing it until somebody else better came along to do it. I don't think I'm the best director, chair who's ever been on that board, but you know, I I did it while until somebody else came along that could do it. So, and the board and British Skydiving is not particularly glamorous or interesting, so we don't get that many people coming along to do it. So I ended up doing it for 20 years. So it's a bit of a survivors award, I think, a bit of a longevity one. So yeah, but for whatever reason, I was I'm honoured. So
And you definitely didn't cry.
I don't think so. I'm not
Okay.
really.
But anyway,
Who told you
so
that? I
anyway,
mean, you weren't even in the
uh,
audience, were you? You weren't even there to see me get it.
no,
You
of
were
course not.
boring.
Um, yeah, I was doing some other stuff, but yeah, it drags on. You talk, blah blah. Um,
Yeah.
so you
So
got a
last
fucking
time,
sword. Is it
yeah,
heavy? Does it come out of the box?
it does. It comes out of the box a bit too
Is it
easily
sharp?
because no,
Do you drop it?
yes. So the box is not well held together. The little piece of wood that's supposed to keep the sword in the frame came off and it sort of fell out onto the edge. Um, yeah, I've now fixed that. Um, but yeah, no, it's not. It's a ceremonial sort of display sword. Maybe I've got a picture of my son wielding it, so at
Oh
home.
wow.
Maybe that'd be a better
Okay, amazing.
back cover photo. And
I just
then
wondered if you're
so
going to be doing like a He-Man impression with it, like little pair of leather shorts and you topless and just holding up, going by the power of Grayskull.
so it comes with a scabbard, but the scabbard doesn't have a like a strap to wear it. So I think I
Uh-huh.
might buy a strap and leave it with it for the next person so that they can actually wear the sword around the edge or wherever in the future because I think that's missing. So and one of the benefits of being part of the Royal Aero Club, and so each association can present their one of their special awards at the Aero Club Awards. Oh, I forgot to say. So I also got full sweep. I also got nominated for a Royal Aero Club Award as well, which I got a bronze medal. Um,
Well done.
thank you. Um,
First the
yeah,
worst,
again,
second the best, third the one with the hairy chest. Well done,
that's
your bronze medal.
uncanny because I do have a hairy chest. Well done there. Good comedy gold there, Brian. Nice one. Um, so yeah, so the sword is one of the awards that can be presented at the Aero Club Awards. So when I get my bronze medal in May, um, which is going to be at Goodwood. Do you want to come, Brian? My wife
Goodwood.
can't make it. You could be my plus one.
When? I'm busy. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it
When in
doesn't matter
May?
what date. I can't remember. 12th, 13th, something like that.
Or Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, yeah, it's midweek. It's a lunch at Goodwood. Anyway, they
Okay.
will represent me with that sword there as well as the bronze medal. It's ridiculous. Just yeah, it's too much. 4 awards. That was absolutely crazy. Don't deserve it, but very honoured to be awarded them.
Cool.
And you weren't there to see it. My
I'm hearing
closest
all about it now in great
skydiving.
detail. I'm so
How,
excited.
yeah. Do you think anybody's still listening?
This is the worst podcast we've ever done. Um,
Well, so we should. So this is is it the worst one we've done this year?
No. Yes. Yes.
I said we, you've done one this year. I haven't done one this year. So,
Oh, that's true.
um,
So,
we haven't done one for a while, have we, together? Because I was a bit busy last year being on the board, but I'm no longer on the board anymore. So the board, British Skydiving's loss is the listeners and your, Brian, your gain, because I am now available a bit more to do this. So the
mhm,
intention is to do more episodes. So you went to ESS, so, the great and the good of skydiving there. Did you do any interviews for the podcast while you were there?
no,
Why not?
no.
Because you're too
Too
busy
busy
out
talking
running
because
and
it
queuing for coffees, and
didn't actually
that
go for
would
a run. But thank you for
that
listening.
was prime opportunity to interview people,
Um,
surely.
most people don't have something to talk about straight away. So I did speak to a bunch of people about doing an interview in the future, um, but none have been recorded yet
Good.
because
So
it's difficult to say
now you
where and
can
when
write
they
it
would
off
go
as
out.
a tax expense because it was a research trip, right?
Yes, of course,
CPD.
work trip. Yeah,
So did you so you alluded to it earlier, so you didn't pay for your ticket because your
correct.
one of
One of
your
my
sponsors
sponsors
paid for it.
had a spare ticket at short notice.
Yeah,
Or not at short notice, they had a spare ticket, so I was glad to be able to go along and support them.
because they also did offer a discount for instructors. So with that early bird ticket, I got also
I didn't
included
know that.
a discount
Okay,
for, I think they offered discounts for DZAs, instructors, and yeah, so I got a 10% on there for them.
that's cool.
But
I think
for
next
being
time
the
I will
instructor.
try and do some jumps at Seville, at Skydive Spain before and maybe take a group out. We'll
Yeah,
do a
so
couple
they
of
had a
days of
weekend
jumps.
afterwards, didn't they, where all the manufacturers went and you could demo all the gear, which sound like a really good idea. Skydive Spain were a big partner of the symposium, which is why it was held in Seville, and then they had the opportunity to go and skydive afterwards. As I said earlier about my time and availability, I literally flew in on the last flight the night before, and then I flew out on the Friday night, so I missed the party on the Friday night. Did you go to the party?
No, I left Friday morning.
Oh, you yeah, that's right. So, yeah, so both missed the party, and then they had a weekend of jumping. But, I'm not a fun jumper anymore, am I? So, I wasn't really missing out on any
You're not even a
skydiving
jumper
trips.
anymore. You're just an admin person who
Yes.
likes
So, but
directing boards. Anyway,
that would be good to, yeah, to combine it with some jumping, some fun jumping and some sunny
I think it'd
jumping.
be nice. Yeah, it's two birds with one stone.
Yep.
Um, so back to the expo. You wanted to talk about the meal.
You're supposed to be a bit more subtle than that, Brian. Just
It's exactly what you wrote on the outline.
the outline is not a
Skydive
verbatim.
the Expo, that meal.
What did you think of the meal, Brian?
I thought it was a so I thought individually everything was nice, but I thought the everything together was a bit of a diverse palette on the plates, and I couldn't understand why the plates were ice cold.
Mm. And the food was
So,
cold as well.
well, because they'd be sat on a cold, ice cold
Yeah.
plate while you
And so
walk
we
around. I mean,
s- focus on the positives rather than go
yeah,
straight
it
to
was great
negative.
seeing
No,
everyone.
yeah. Think it was how
Um,
busy was it this year compared to previous years?
I mean, you alluded to it being nearly 1,000 people, but I think it was probably
I
750, 800.
I
It looked
haven't
like there
actually
was a couple of boxes of bags.
I haven't actually seen the numbers from this year because I'm not on the board anymore, so I'm not privy to those numbers, although I don't think it's something that should be hidden. But yeah, previous years have averaged
Yeah.
around
I think it's been
900-ish,
a
but
quiet year.
it did it
It was a
did
quiet
it
year.
did
Like,
seem a bit quieter.
it didn't
But
feel like there was the headline keynote speaker that we've had in the past. I thought the speakers were nothing stood out for me to go like, "Oh, I have to go see that. I have to do that." Um, that I can
yeah,
remember.
and that, to be fair to British Academy, I think they're aware that, it's I don't want to use the word tired, but it's samey. We've done the same thing for many, many years, and that's why they're trying to change things and look to do things differently to try and reinvent the event and bring more people back to it. to offer value to members because I think
I
it's
think a blind packing race is absolutely the way forward.
which
And I
they
think
did
it
at
should be,
ESS, yes. But that I
and
mean,
we have done it in the bar in previous occasions, like all around the world, I'm sure. So, but yeah, it was at ESS as well,
that
which
was a lot of
will
fun,
maybe remember it.
but would you not just get accused of just copying ES I mean, I know, as I said, Lucy was there to pick up ideas, but, literally copying exact things that they do. But then again,
Well, I mean, there was a
we
raffle
had
at
the
the end of the
raffle.
day. Where did that come from?
Yeah, everyone does raffles, don't they? But I don't think we
And
can claim a
yeah, but
raffle as our
British Skydiving
USP.
has one for a reason, to clear out the room so it changes. So it goes from an exhibition venue to a dinner venue, but the ESS doesn't need to do that. So you
And
could argue that
to
they're
bring
copying.
people to the event, that's it's a value add, isn't it? That you might win 10% off something.
Ah, so I go, do you wanna hear my rant about that now?
Go on.
Like, there are so
Totally
many.
unscripted.
Yeah, but I'm sure I've talked about this before on the podcast, and I talk
Yes.
about it to my sponsors quite a lot as well, but if you're giving out a voucher for a discount off a product, there has to be a secondary market value to that voucher. Because if there isn't, there's a thing about, if you won this prize, you can't give it away, you can't sell it. But then if you've won this prize and you don't need to use it, the voucher to buy the thing, um,
But
then you
there
just
is
won a prize that you don't want.
but then pay it forward. Just give it away to somebody new in the sport who will use it. Karma will come back to you in spades, won't it?
Yeah, but so my example was the Langer Boogie 4 or 5 years ago. I put in, I don't know, 20 quid into raffle tickets. I think I won 3 prizes that year. It was incredible. And they were all incompatible prizes with the sponsors I already had. So I won 3 prizes, and every single time I won a prize, I was sad that I'd won that prize because I couldn't use it. And I was like,
Actually,
why are we putting out prizes where people are sad that they've won them? And I just put them back in the pot. Somebody else can have it. And you
well,
know
there
what?
you go.
I've not entered a raffle, but I've not entered a raffle since. So that charity doesn't get that money anymore. And I just don't go to the raffles because it's like, why is the
But it
point?
was at the ESS, it was part of the
But if they
ticket
had,
price, so you were entered for it.
but I didn't go. I think I
No,
went the
and your
first
name
night and
didn't
then
come up
didn't bother
either,
the
so
second night. Um, but most of the prizes were, again, I wouldn't have wanted or wouldn't have needed or couldn't have
no,
used.
no, actually, I
So,
think that's right.
but if they'd had a secondary value, because if a discount off a container is
L
like
l
worth
l
£800 or
let me
something,
let
and
me
it
talk.
says, "Why? It's my point. I'm still talking. You're the one
Because
interrupting for the last 52 and a half minutes."
I looked at a certificate that somebody got as a prize, and there was no clause on there saying it wasn't transferable.
But it doesn't say it is, which means you'll get slated on social media if you do try and get rid of it for money.
So, but this is the other point. So, if it's 20% discount or 30% discount, you can pretty much get that just by asking. That isn't a special prize,
Can't.
I don't think. You can.
You can't get that.
I I
You shouldn't
I've
be able to.
I've not bought a rig in quite some time, but I think the last time I did, I I got it from asking. There are ways to achieve these things. Anyway,
Yeah, but not for the normal person.
but
But if that
the
voucher had no, I obviously
no, it wasn't anything special. I'm not saying that, they didn't anyone was doing you any favors. I mean, it wasn't massive discounts, but it was, if you asked, if you don't ask, you don't get. Anyway, but there was quite it, there was some of the prizes were, an hour of tunnel time,
in
and
a country that you'd have to fly to.
but that makes it worthwhile. If that's an hour of tunnel time is not to be sniffed at, and you could probably get a budget flight to go there and use it. And I would certainly would have done that. But that's very different from getting 10% off a container, which, like you say, if it's either incompatible with your sponsors or what you're currently jumping, or just not worth the effort because you're not going to buy a rig at this time. You can't buy a rig and you can't give it to anyone. So, there were different prizes there, but that's what you know. They can't all be fantastic prizes. I think there were a lot of generous prizes in that raffle. There were a lot of 10%, 20% as well, but it was a good mix, and it made for
So if the voucher had some small print that said is transferable to the value of 2 jump tickets or 5 jump tickets or 5 beers at the drop zone bar, then suddenly I've gone, oh, I've won a voucher that I can't use, but actually I can swap it for 2 jump tickets or 5 jump tickets, and then I'm super happy again. So
yeah.
if it just did that and had a secondary market value, on the certificate, everybody would be happy to win every prize.
Yeah,
And it's much better branding, much better marketing than having somebody sad for winning a prize from your company.
I agree. Everyone seemed very happy with their prizes at ESS, except for me. I didn't win one. There was a really sweet story. So they had this ticker machine that picked the names out, and the first night it came up and it had two names overlaid, and
I mean,
um,
there was like 50 prizes per night, right? And there's just this
yeah,
one
yeah,
time.
yeah. This one time I had two names overlaid, and they just they picked one name. I think it was a Spanish name, Raul or somebody, and the other name was
Fernandez,
Lucy Mancy,
Chris Mancy.
and they decided that it would be Raul that was the name that they were going to choose, but Raul wasn't there, so they spun it again. I think that's the story,
Oh, he was
and
there.
then
It was in the second row, and
okay,
he went up
so
and he
what?
got the prize. And Lucy was
So
at the
how was it?
back of the room, so she didn't get it
Yeah. So what? How was it that they gave it to her the next day? What was the decision? Because Raul's
because
name
his
came up
name came
again.
up the second day. His
That's
name
it.
came up the
That's it.
second day, but he wasn't in the room, so they gave it to Lucy.
Yes. And they said, well, because her name also came up yesterday and she didn't get that prize, she should get this one. And they agreed. So that was good. And she ended up with a halo jump at Drop Zone Denmark.
Mhm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I don't know how much they charge for a halo jump, but it's probably about the same price as an hour of tunnel time. So would that entice you to go to a drop zone you've never been to before, would be unlikely to go to fulfill that prize?
Not sure. Don't know.
It
Maybe.
it would
Probably.
me. I'd do that. And what so I hadn't realized, so there were a lot of tunnels at the ESS advertising that I'd never heard of before. So there's a booming market in other manufacturers and drop zone tunnels that are now setting up and establishing. That is just yeah, it's interesting. Some countries are dominated by iFly. I think probably the UK and America are probably the two that are dominated, but there is a whole world of tunnels, it seems to be out there now. So I was interested to learn about these new tunnels, and that's if I had one an hour in those tunnels, I definitely think I would have made the effort to go and utilize that time.
Is it booming, the tunnel industry, or is it just that it's actually being squeezed and therefore they're having to advertise even harder and fire could be even
I
more?
mean, time will tell whether it's sustainable in terms of those manufacturers, but the fact that they feel that there's space. I mean, it's good for the consumer because the prices are coming down,
Mhm.
um, because there is competition, but whether it's sustainable, it will
€250 for an hour of tunnel time in Scandinavia.
crazy. That's absolutely
There
crazy.
has
How much
never
is
been
it
a
in?
better time to learn to fly. In fact, the only way this could be better is when we get, proper comms. So you've got a radio with the coach and you.
So I bought.
That's
So
€250.
I bought a
Incredible.
Cardo comms unit. I went skiing last month, and I bought Cardo so I could stay in comms with my wife on the slopes. So are they not used in the tunnel? Could I slip that into my helmet and talk to my coach in the
Isn't it
tunnel?
on the outside? Don't you need to attach it to the outside? Isn't it pretty big?
I've yet to look at it. Yeah, it is quite big, and most people do attach it outside, but I think a lot of people have lost them in riser slaps, and I'm not sure how happy the tunnel would be about
Mhm.
a stuck-on piece of equipment on the side of the helmet. But there must be a way of.
Absolutely 0 in the UK. No chance in the UK.
Yeah. Uh, so have you seen one?
I've seen
So
them on other wingsuiters.
that's how big it is. I think I did. I couldn't even
So
get my
do
helmet out. So
so for the listeners,
I'm showing my Cardo to Brian on the.
so it's about 10 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 2 centimeters. It's about forehead sized, which on Craig is pretty big because his hair's gone. Doesn't fit in his mouth either. It's
But
pretty big. What's the range?
it's quite 1,000 meters, a long way, probably over spec
Okay,
for a tunnel, but certainly good for wingsuit and crew. Um, but it's
that's
got
a
this
big
big
unit.
roller mount on the side. That's the bit that's going to really stick in. Otherwise,
That's not going in a helmet anywhere.
oh, let me take it out of that. No, that's better because that's the mount. this is really great radio, isn't it? So that's the unit. If it wasn't for the roll amount, I think he could fill it in, but yeah.
Where's the microphone? Is it on that piece?
Uh, so that's it plugs
Oh,
in.
separate. Yeah, so you'd have it in a pocket in the
Yeah.
jumpsuit. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, you could actually. Except
But
the ones that come with it aren't that long.
yeah,
Quite
so
long hour.
comms will change, will revolutionize coaching in tunnels, but until
But
then,
these have been around for
now is the
ages.
best
So
time to learn.
why aren't they using these more?
I don't know. The only people I've seen using comms in the tunnel are from the bonehead helmets that are like £1,500 each and have comms built in, and you then have to buy like one in every size to make sure you're fitting everyone.
I was also thinking, I mean, not really necessary, but a tandem, obviously tandem instructor, thinking about tandem instructor and the camera person, you could synchronize really well with them for the footage. You could coordinate that. That'd be good. I'm gonna look into it more
So
because
our front cover photo.
I've spent a lot of money on these, and they're not can't be for just once a year activities. And I don't ride motorbikes because that's dangerous, and I like my
Do you
legs and my
wingsuit?
skin. I used to, and now that I'm got all this time and I'm going to get back into fun jumping, wingsuiting is one of the things that perhaps might tickle my fancy. Because I've got no friends. So
How many suits do you own?
do I own? um, I own more than one, but I
Wingsuit?
think that yeah. But the question should be, how many modern wingsuits do you own? Because I've got a Phantom, I've got some GTIs, I've got an S3, and I've got a Classic, so I don't think they really count, do they? Because 'Cause they're like yeah, 20 years old. I told you I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
So no,
I've sold
actually,
2 wingsuits.
do I have a Sky I've definitely got a Skyfly. I don't know if I've got a Skyfly 3. I've got yeah, but we're talking 20 years old. So the Phantom is probably the most recent wingsuit I've got, and how old is that? That's gotta be 15 years old. So, yeah. No, but I need to get a second rig if I'm gonna do that. I'm not sure I do enough to justify it, but I need something. I definitely need something beyond tandem and AFF to, yeah,
I feel
bring
like
back
you're
the
just
love.
saving stuff up for the Craig Poxon Vice Presidential Museum or something.
Skydiving museum. Yeah, when they eventually build the skydiving museum, there'll be a separate wing for my stuff.
But
My
absolutely,
world
Hall of
team
Fame.
tracksuit on a mannequin.
The Craig Poxon Hall of Fame. Yes, that might be the last remaining, one. All the others have gone away, but yours has been, like, in an air-conditioned, climate-controlled, pest-controlled environment. Um, Fun cover. Let's move on to some proper
Oh, yes,
wingsuiters doing
some
some
actual
proper
skydiving
wingsuiting.
that might interest
This
people.
is a wonderful photo by Andy Ford, friend of the show. Andy's had to listen to 1 hour, 3 minutes of us talking before he gets to a name check. But this is a 12 way, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 way, so 15 including Andy, over Swakopmund drop zone. It's
Swa
the only drop
swa
zone in
swa
Namibia.
Swakopmund. Swakopmund.
Swakop Swakopmund, exactly. It's a 5-hour trek from
Sweet.
the international
That's what he
airport,
said.
and looks beautiful. Like
Absolutely
the
stunning.
salt flats, yeah, with the red is just absolutely incredible. The pink salt pans that look like a palette of pastel eyeshadow. And it's a 14-way flock that is super tight as well, and Andy's got some great views on it as well. He took this photo. You can see this photo. It's going to be our front cover photo for the duration. This is the most current episode.
So about 4
And
months by the
and
time we record another one.
maybe, but you just told me that you got more free time, so we can record more.
Yep.
I did like the stats we ran through earlier. The last 10 episodes we've done are February, December, January, November, November, December, January, February, April, January. So there's definitely a pattern there, but hopefully we're going to break that this year. But Andy said it was taken on his Sony full frame, nice heavy camera. It's his A7R4 with a 50mm lens, between f1.2 and 3.5, depending on the group size. And it was around 1/200th of a second shutter with ISO 100 for you fans of
That's
camera
quite slow.
geekiness out there.
That's a very wide aperture and very
Does
slow
he mean
shutter
one?
speed.
Does he mean at 1/1200th or 1/200th? No.
I didn't see the
Andy's
message.
g
Is it 1/200?
yes. No,
Right.
1 comma 200. I think Andy's putting his hair out
Hmm.
right now. Um,
200 is very slow. That'd be blurry images, and I think that's 1200.
so listeners, if you've got a great photo, please send them in. We'd love to see them. Front cover is for skydiving photos, and the back cover is anything goes, which is why this show's back cover is Craig being presented with a sword. He's doing his very best Highlander impression and not crying at all. Um, we had a few messages on Facebook. Um, I'm not sure if you have saw that in the outline. So um, we had quite a popular episode on the last one, 104, with Ferg and his um,
I
putting
was
his
amazed
reserve.
that that didn't go viral, that interview, because that was so popular in the media, and I spammed it everywhere I could find it, but clearly it's only of interest to skydivers.
I mean, been it's double as popular as the most recent podcast we've been doing over the last year or two.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so good stuff. A really, really interesting one. But there was a comment I made at the end of it, and I maybe should have given Ferg the chance to reply to it. So the message was basically, so this Ferg did, he had a premature reserve deployment outside the plane. His canopy went over the tail and he hacked off his own reserve with his hook knife eventually. And then he had to deploy, and then he was released from the plane and he deployed his main parachute into his trailing reserve mess, and survived with not too many injuries. But and we all went, "Wow, what a hero! Did amazing." And then one other person said, the quote was, "Look, he did a great job saving himself, but in reality, it was a very basic mistake which could have killed all of us. He's been labeled a hero, but it's a major fuck up. And in any business environment, a mistake that could have cost lives of people is a disciplinary action and not a hero badge. But that's the sport, and mistake happens." And I had a conversation with Dave Schwartz about this, and then Ferg listened to the podcast and he wrote into us and he said, Ferg's words, just thought your friend saying about responsibility for actions and not being termed a hero for the incident and your thoughts on negligence. Did you want to blah, blah, blah? Short answer is yes, I'm not a hero. There were three, though, the two guys who stayed in the plane and the pilot. And ever since the accident, I've had this sense of dread about being presented with a bill for the repair or at least the insurance excess. It was entirely an accident, but it's 100% my actions that took it from a usual jump to what it was. In my opinion, it doesn't raise to the level of negligence, though, as there's nothing I can think of that I did that a reasonable person wouldn't have done, nor anything I didn't do that they would have ensured was done, which I thought was a very um, smart response from Ferg. Right.
Absolutely, and that just, that whole interview with him just showed was exemplary in how prepared he was. He's obviously a thoughtful, considerate person, and he's just demonstrated that with his response. He's thought it through and he's prepared. I don't. w- w- Where did this hero come from? We didn't use the word hero. I think the person who wrote that comment has kind of applied that themselves on that. I
I think social media said they're a hero for saving themselves.
really
Yeah, like
okay.
they were
That
Ferg
wasn't
was
that wasn't
adulated in the social media,
adulated for his preparedness. I think in his
but no one knew
ability
about that at the time, just his
to
ability
deal
to recognize what was going on.
with a really bad situation. It was, and this is what I tell everyone about that story. It was only because he was so prepared that unfortunate occurrence ended the way it did. He put in a lot of work to prepare for the very unlikely chance that that would happen, and that work paid off. That's what he should be credited for. And I think to say a disciplinary offense, that's really harsh. That's really cold light of day. You know, we're all aware of the risks of skydiving, but how many times did we hear normalization of deviance at ESS? This has thing been going around for years. and is becoming more and more so. And I think it's a good thing. Everyone's learning from it. Everyone's aware of it. Things are improving, but it's still a very dynamic environment where there are huge chances and risks and possibilities of things going wrong. And despite the best efforts to try and avoid those, sometimes things are going to happen. I don't want to be a shit, say shit happens because is there such thing as an accident? And we also there was a lot of talk of Swiss holes, Swiss cheese, and holes in the Swiss cheese, where all these things line up. And you know, I don't think there are many Swiss cheeses with Ferg's is one. It was literally, it was the fact that it was a soft handle and the way he positioned himself on the wing, the way he unaligns the Swiss cheese holes is by all the precautions that he took with the choice of his reserve and the number of hook knives he had and the fact that they were lanyarded and, you know, being prepared for that situation. Yeah, I'm not going to condemn the guy because there, for the grace of God, go I. Anybody can make that mistake, I think, and nobody should be arrogant enough to think that we can't be in that position. And anyone who does end up in that position is, needs to be disciplined. I think Ferg's redeemed himself um, in a multitude of ways by his preparedness for it. Because most people, 90, I bet you, most people would not be as prepared as Ferg's, and most 9 times
Mhm.
out of 10, that situation would not have ended in the way that it did there. There would have been much, he would have died. Everyone on that plane would have died because of actions from somebody who was not prepared for it. So do did do you know who made that comment? Because I didn't read the outline or that bit. I think you added it late, so I don't know who said that. And that comes across as, and I've been a keyboard internet warrior in my time, but that comes across as very keyboard warrior-ish, and I think that does Ferguson a disservice. And I'm not saying he's a hero, but he certainly put the work in to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, he did great. I think he's a very smart guy.
Yes, and that
Um,
just comes across in everything he said in that interview. So, and I'm really sorry that I couldn't be with you and Dave to talk about that because that was a great interview, and it's one of it is I think actually that will be one of my favorite episodes that we've ever done. And I had nothing to do with it because of the number of lessons that can be learned from that. That will be, and it was a great scoop because I don't think anybody else did that level of coverage or
no,
in depth. So,
no, it was great
good,
because I
brilliant
flew
work there,
in the
Brian.
tunnel with some of his a very close friend of his, and he'd also been listened to our show, so he was amenable to talking about it and getting his side of the story across,
So,
which I
a
think
few
he did
things
very
lined up
well.
there, which was good. And yeah,
And
so credit to
going on
both of
from
you.
that, we are looking to do an interview with Simon Soper, who did, as part of his advanced instructor um, qualification for British skydiving, he did a deep dive into hook knives, and he's got 3 hook knives that he recommends for everyone, which you can pick up. So look out for the next show. Hopefully, we'll have that on there. Um,
So normally, because he did that as part of his AI advanced instructor, stop blowing your cheeks out, Brian, when I interrupt you. Normally, so he did that for his lecture. What do they call it? Specialist subject in his advanced instructor rating that we do in the UK. And quite often they become seminars at the expo. So they ask the people who presented those things because they'll be of interest, a wider interest, come to the expo and present them. But I don't think Simon has done that at our expo. So I wonder why not? Did he not want to do it? Has it because he's I think he's out in Australia at the moment, so he's not had the opportunity to do it. But it would be good if it was so we can give it a platform here, but it would be good if we could have a platform in the expo as well, I think, to share that, especially in light of what happened with Fergs, because he did that before Fergs. So before it was cool. Brian's just nodding now. He's like sick of me keep interrupting me. So it's like
yeah. Um, I did
it's a
some
great,
wingsuit
great
coaching.
banter. You did.
I
And you
did. So I got my
qualified
rating in
somebody.
October got my racing in October 2024, and I managed to get nearly all the way through to here without finding someone that wanted to jump with me, or having the right weather, the right time. It was I had a guy lined up in the summer, but my schedule didn't align, and he ended up jumping with another coach that I put him in touch with. But yeah, so that was good fun. I enjoyed doing that. Learned a bunch. Um, it was really interesting. Um, really enjoyed doing that. So congratulations to Iheb. He's got his WS1 now. That was a fun day in beautiful blue sky weather in March, actually. So very nice.
So just in time for you to get your coach rating renewed as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't pay my British Garden renewal till this weekend. So yeah, I got that in
And
just in
is your
time.
CI accepting coaching of one student as proof of your currency for coaching for that rating? Is he? Are they?
I hope so. 4 jumps. It's tricky. It's certainly a lot more than other wingsuit coaches. It's like I don't
Have they
know
also been
how
signed off? These other wing tree coaches.
we I would love to see British Skydiving track which proficiency ratings are given out and when and how. Not how, but when and where. Like, I think it'll be really interesting to know how many WS1 Swingsuit 1 figures are
They
given
can
out.
track that. That is
How?
recorded.
How?
What do you mean how? Oh, sorry, to the awardees. Yeah, no, I mean, I thought my impression was that the new system, the new Skyvault system, was going to be able to cater for that because part of the membership check, you can check ratings, but you also need to check qualifications as well. If somebody goes to a job zone, I mean, yes, it is in your license, but in the modernization, digitization of everything, then that surely should be part of it. But that never materialized, sadly. But yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about coach ratings, not the actual qualifications awarded
It'd
to
be nice to see how
skydivers.
many
Yes.
FF1s, how many free flies ones there are, free fly 2s, wingsuit 1s, etcetera, just
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see what's happening with it. Because it's pretty hard to wingsuit 1 is a bit different to all the other qualifications you get within British skydiving, in that it's a little bit more like AFF. How do you jump with a straight jacket on? Rather than actually being proficient in flying with it. And then wingsuit 2 is actually how like, it's being safe, it's landing on, whereas wingsuit 2 is then more akin to what you do for FS1 formation skydiving one, where you got forwards and backwards and side to side, left and right, and um, vertical up and down movement. But yeah, it was a good fun day. I really enjoyed it. Your tandem current?
Yes. So yeah, I I skied off work on Friday because the weather was glorious and went to the drop. So I'm I haven't. So we had a safety day. Our Nether Raven safety day is the first weekend we're open, the beginning of February. So I went to that, but the weather was rubbish, so I didn't get to jump. I think that was the last weekend that I had to jump before going on current. I think my previous tandem was in November. So yeah, so I went on current, unsurprisingly. Um, so yeah, I'm supposed to be working next weekend. This weekend, sorry, the 28th. So I thought, well, I don't want to be that guy that turns up uncurrent and has to do a currency jump first thing in the morning before he can start work. So I went on Friday and did my currency jump. We've got a guy, MJ. Do you know MJ? He's he's camera guy and packer uh, at, at Netherhaven. He's going to go on his tandem course. I think he's doing it at Langer. I think he's doing it next month in April. Um, and one of the requirements for doing a tandem TI course is to go on the front of the tandem, so you know what it's like to be on the front, so you've experienced it. So yeah, so I took MJ. The only problem is MJ is 100 kilos, so
How much are you?
87. So
God, that's a big canopy.
what are they? 360s of them. So yeah, it was a rude awakening after not having done a tandem for 4 months plus to to have MJ on the front. But no, I like MJ's a really good guy. And if he'd just been doing it for fun, for the sake of doing a tandem, I would not have been pleased. But the fact that he's going on a course, I was quite happy to help him out, and to also, that quality time spent with me, getting the golden, the tips, the juiciest information on, all the secrets, tandem secrets that I passed on to him, that
Mhm.
wisdom that he
Oh,
gained
that you
from
whispered
being
in
able.
his ear under canopy,
Yeah, the
sweet
sweet
nothings as you were
nothings.
nibbling on him.
Yeah. That's right.
Cool.
But he'll now be absolutely perfectly set up to go and do his course.
How many jumps you got this year? One.
So far, 2. So I
Two.
did a fun job. Did a fun job after that as well. Yeah. So typically, I think the forecast is looking absolutely dire for this weekend. I knew if I went and prepared in advance, the weather was going to be rubbish. So, and I also put my rig in for a repack on Friday, and shout out to Romek, God bless them. Wrong time of year to get a repack because everyone's,
Yeah.
just had the good weather and coming up for new membership season, so everyone's keen to start jumping again. So I think they've got like 25 weeks to reach back this week. I just give them another one to do, and I think I might text them tomorrow saying forecast looks dog shit for the weekend. So don't kill yourself to get it done. I don't think I'm gonna need it, but yeah, typical. Typical. How many have you got this year
Cool.
then, Brian? You've been fairly busy.
20. 20.
Mm,
Not so many,
yeah.
but enough.
This month's been good, hasn't it? March, we've had quite a nice March. I think it was a bit of a slow start, but we've had some unseasonably good weather just recently. Um, but
Yeah. So
it's are we looking ahead to 2026? Did we say we were going to do that? Is that a good time to do that now?
I think we're running out of time, aren't we?
Yeah, you said you only wanted to do an hour, didn't you? We're now an hour and 20. It's
You're an hour
just
and 22.
yes, we we should ask AI to say how much time did Craig spend talking on this, and how much time did Brian spend
Well, we
talking?
might. There might be a photo of the different tracks for your voice and my versus my voice
Cheaper
going
than
out.
Craig's therapy. The
Yes.
world is a very uncertain place at the moment. Um, so Brian sent me a link a few weeks back of from the FFP, the French Parachutists Federation, and showing the number of jumps that they've done over the years. And it was going great until COVID. And then, like everyone, it really dropped during COVID and then sprang back. But since the spring back from post COVID, there's been a decline over the past few years. And I asked we have a new analyst at British Skydiving,
We.
if we are all part of we are British Skydiving, we're all members,
Wow.
um, to see how that compared to our data, and it tracks pretty similarly. So, this is not just the decline, the decrease in members and decrease in jumping in skydiving is not just a British phenomenon. This is happening elsewhere. And, you've got Brian and I talking about, what's the cause, and there are many reasons for that. I think the primary one is cost. The other one is just, modern life. We all know this. People don't want to hang around drop zones anymore. They want instant gratification. They don't want to wait all day for one jump. So they'd rather spend their precious time doing things that are going to be more responsive uh, to their needs. But with the uncertainty in the world at the moment, I think everything we all know is going to get more expensive in the short term, if not the long term, and that just impacts everything, and it impacts us really directly. Fuel costs on aircraft. What was that? I was listening to something on Radio Four, some comedy quiz on Radio Four. I'm showing my age now, but they did alliteration with three things starting with P, and I can't remember what two of the P's were, but one of the P's was parachutes. Parachutes, petroleum jelly. Petroleum jelly was the other thing, and I can't remember what the first one was. But these are all the things that are going to increase in costs due to the oil shock, the oil crisis that's going on because of the conflict in Iran, because everything revolves around oil. So I think we have a tough year ahead of us. It's been tough past couple of years, post-COVID, costs of living crisis, inflation, the British skydiving seem to have done pulled a miracle out of the bag, and the insurers, shopping around to get new insurance that has resulted in a decrease for a significant number of our members, despite the claims history that we've had in the past couple of years. So they've done their damnedest to to benefit the sport, but all that good work is going to be rapidly undone if we're not careful through things that are beyond our control. So yeah, this year will be interesting.
There we go. Have an interesting
Brian's
year, people.
Brian's done.
Um,
Brian's had enough. Brian's wants to switch off. He's like, I've had
how
enough
was
for
Saudi
8 years.
Arabia?
As a country, as a
Well,
conference,
you
as a
you you went as the UK delegate to the International Skydiving Commission, the plenary they held over there in January.
alternate delegate. Yeah,
Alternate delegate.
yeah. And I must say, I had my reservations about going to a place like Saudi Arabia. They've got a bit of a checkered past, shall we say. I did feel, I must say, I felt uncomfortable going, but I'm glad I went. It was an experience. It's like most places, everywhere the people are generally lovely, just in spite of the what's going on around them. But they generally bent over backwards to accommodate and facilitate us, and I had a great time. Now I appreciate I didn't see you know a lot of things that would probably concern me. I didn't see much of anything, in fact, because again, I flew in on the red eye very late, got there, did the absolute minimum amount of time I could do before I had to skedaddle back to the UK, so I wasn't abandoning my employers and my family for too long. So I didn't see a huge amount outside of the hotel where we had the conference, which was a little bit outside of Riyadh. We had an afternoon at an historic site, um, at Diriyah, which is that like where you know early settlement was there, and it's we all took a photo, and it was like, this is where President Trump had his photo. We were like, everyone went boo, which was really funny. We also went to this theme park that had an outdoor aerodium wind tunnel in it, and Ray Ahmed, good friends to both of us, who is on the, let me get this right now, she's on the
Artistics.
artistics, and she's on the para skydiving for the disabled, and I think she also might be on the dynamic committee or the indoor committee, one of those. She's on quite a few committees. Anyway, she was out there, and we went in this tunnel and we had a great laugh. One of the tunnel operators was a guy that had worked at the um the Blue Water Tunnel. What's that called? I can't remember.
Hang loose.
Hang loose, that's it. Wasn't a skydiver, but was a tunnel guy. So they were, I think they'd had a few skydivers passing through because of the conference, and they were quite happy to see skydivers there. So Ray got a bit humbled because she hadn't been an outdoor tunnel without any wall, underpowered outdoor tunnel without any walls before. Whereas I went to, we went on a tunnel trip to Latvia, to Riga, probably 20 years ago, because Chatteris were looking to buy a tunnel, and we went on a fact finding mission, a field trip to see the very first Iridium tunnel, Sigulda, out there in December. It was fucking freezing. An outdoor tunnel in December in Latvia. That was incredible. But yeah, I'd had a bit of experience in terms of whereas Ray hadn't. So Ray was a bit bottom feeding, but I had a bit more success, and that was great fun. We had grins plastered on our face for the rest of the evening. But apart from that, I didn't really see a huge amount of Saudi Arabia. But it was. I'm glad I went. It was like I say, people are nice generally everywhere you go. They were very accommodating. So that is the memory I will take away from that.
Cool. And the meetings? Useful? productive? Too long? If
Yes.
people just
No.
talk and ramble for ages with no proper purpose.
So it's no, it's pretty efficient. They do rattle through it. The only problem is it's like most meetings. The papers get sent out in advance, and you do get some people, and it's just slightly unfair because I'm fortunate. It's all done in English. English is my first language. For a lot of the people there, English is not their first language. So, but they have to present it in English. So that makes it difficult. And then you get a lot of people who just reread the presentation when everyone should have read the papers before we even got there, and it should just be, has everyone read the paper? Okay, questions. That's what makes it um, a bit difficult. But even still, it's fairly fast. But there is so much talked about. There's so much content there because it's every discipline. It's not just the disciplines, it's beyond that as well. It's I sit on technical safety committee, and there are the rules and regulations, which is sort of really boring, but it's actually probably one of the most important committees there. And the accounts and all, yeah, it's everything I love and will keep me happy now that I'm no longer on the board. I'll still get my fix of bureaucracy and management of the sport. But yeah, it's like, so they have 3 days of open meetings, and then they have a day and a half of closed meetings, and it flies by. It does fly by, but then I'm a bit weird like that. But yeah, there's a lot covered. It does depend year on year because on years and off years, and whether they don't introduce any major rule changes in on years. So yeah, it ebbs and flows. But no, it's nice, and it's a bit like symposium, or it's a bit like expo. You get to see friends from around the world that you would have seen years ago at meets, at competitions, or at boogies, and now everyone's getting a bit older, and now we see each other at conferences. So from that perspective, it's really nice. Oh, so that was the one thing that was weird about Saudi, is because it's a dry state, it's a dry nation, right? So there's no bar. Well, there is a bar, but it's fruit juice and coffee. But there wasn't really a bar, but there's a restaurant, but there's not a bar. So there was very little socializing in the evening like there would be if it was in a place that had a bar, which was, it was great for my sleep. And well, no, not for my sleep, because this was a week before the AGM. So it was great for my frantic last minute preparations for my AGM speech, writing that and getting that done, because I wasn't propping up the bar all night. But it changed the dynamic of the event somewhat. But equally, nobody had a hangover in the morning, so I think that helped with the productiveness um, of the meetings. So
Good. And so I'm glad it was positive overall.
yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoy it. And John Smythe, our delegate, who is been doing it for many years, and he's absolutely in his element there as a statesman, as a politician, and as a person who has very deep knowledge of all of these things and can talk and opine about most of the things that come up. And there are a lot of politics there. There are a lot of block nation voting. There are a lot of allegiances. It is, it's all a lot of the things that it shouldn't be. It should be, decisions based on fact. There was now you've got me talking. So there was the USPA tried to introduce rules. This is actually quite an interesting conversation. So, and quite an important one, because the USPA have put forward the fact that um, canopy piloting is becoming harder and harder. The level that you need to achieve in that discipline is so high that the people qualified to take part and the risks involved to get to that level are very high. So a lot of people are giving up on it because it's not worth the risk anymore. And equally, we are seeing a lot of incidents. Great Britain have been a particular casualty of. of CP. You know, we lost Chris Good a couple of years ago. Chris Cook had a fairly serious incident at the last
He's jumped back.
at the
He's
last
jumped
minute.
since.
He has. He was, you know, he's very fortunate, and fortunately, he has recovered. So you know, there's some, I guess, you know, it's some luck there as well. You know, it's when the margins are so thin with something like CP, it's a very fine line between something you can walk away from or recover from, and not.
Hmm.
And you know, it's a flip to the coin sometimes. I'm very pleased that Chris Cookie was very lucky in that, and is able to. But I think he's given up CP now as a result. Is that right? Is that fair to say? Um,
I haven't asked her about that.
that was, I think, what I had
I'd
heard.
be
But anyway,
surprised. But yeah. Okay.
so but these things don't go unnoticed by the FAI, by governments. That, you know, we have a higher rate of injury and incidents in this discipline than is probably acceptable. And you know, as skydivers, we do accept it. We just go, oh, it's CP. You know, it's difficult, it's risky. People do it knowing the risk, but it's a bit like, you know, BPA nanny state, that we have a duty of care to not demand that people put themselves in that position. So the USPA wanted to introduce a number of changes to the rules that would make CP safer, but also make it more attainable, more sustainable, that people could get into it a lot easier. Now, I can't remember the details off the top of my head, and I've been talking far too long to probably go into too much depth about them, but the things that they had suggested were probably too much or too soon. I think they need to take a bit of time to bed in and to get acceptance, and it was probably trying to change too much too soon. So their their proposals didn't pass in the end. They actually withdrew them. I think pretty much all their proposals, but in a way they succeeded because they have started that conversation. They've got people thinking about it and considering it and starting to accept what was being said. Um, and it's a tough one. You know, it's tough because it's a pinnacle, it's an apex sport, right? It is super difficult to get to that level and achieve. And to dilute that is, you know, is it's not the same sport if because of that, but equally it's not sustainable. So you know, that discipline has a big challenge ahead of itself, how it is going to reinvent itself in a way that is sustainable and safer, to make it sustainable. So yeah, discussions like that are fascinating, and it's, you know, it's very, I say, brave of the USPA. It's, I don't think they see themselves as brave. I think they see it as necessary. You know, we've got to ask ourselves the tough questions. We've got to police ourselves before somebody polices us. Um, or you know, before it fades away just because people aren't doing it anymore. So, you know, we have to address ask these questions and address them to for the longevity of the sport. So yeah, conversations like that are that was probably one of the standout ones. Despite, I felt sorry for Albert. He got a really hard time. Albert's the, as I said, the USPA chief executive, but he's also the alternate delegate um, to ISCC. He does a lot of the presenting there. He's a very polished presenter, and he had a hard time. He got a lot of stick and a lot of grief from, and a lot of challenges from all the delegates there. But you know, he's a tough cookie, and he knew that he had to ask those difficult questions and get those difficult questions being discussed, so that sometime in the future we will be able to deal with it and move on and find a better future for the sport.
Cool. You go there so we don't have to.
Yep. And yeah, that was the highlight. I think, despite the difficulty for Albert and even all the delegates there discussing it, that was probably one of the highlights of that discussion. If you're going to ask me to pick one,
Lis- Listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate you. If you like the show,
one
you
more
should
thing.
subscribe.
I'm joking.
You should subscribe. Please send us your photos, your emails, your voice memos, especially if you did like or didn't like this episode. Record a message on your smartphone and then email us at studio@radioskydive.uk. Or if you're feeling lazy, just post on social media and tag us #RadioSkydiveUK, and we'll probably do a search and find it and read it out for you. Any last words, Craig?
I think I've said enough, don't you?
Listeners, stay safe, stay sane, stay calm, and make good decisions.
Good night.